Hello again. It's Friday. Let's get into another episode. This week we are going to resolve some conflict, perhaps. Welcome to Keems with Pastor Daniel McKellar.
How many miss the whistle in the old music that we used
I don't
to
miss the whistle.
You don't miss the
whistle? No, I do not.
Whisk the missile.
Whistle. You know, missiles are mentioned in the trade war that's going on right now. Apparently, there's a 25%.
So what you're saying is our Canadian military won't be able to bring in any more missiles?
No, I'm saying the Americans have to pay us an extra 25% for those elite Canadian missiles.
Gotcha. Jam-packed full
And
of...
due to the fact that there's an ongoing trade war. Hey, you started it, okay? You started it.
No, Trump started it.
Yeah, I'm saying the Americans started it.
Oh, okay.
And because we have a
I
large...
thought you were talking to me there
No,
for
no,
a
no.
minute.
No, I'm talking to the audience right now. So we will not be releasing this podcast in the U.S. It's only exclusively for non-USA listeners.
Well, you
so
heard
if you're listening, you're not supposed to be right now.
Well, and you heard us talk about the paywall, right? In the
Yeah.
last few weeks. So what we're going to do is we're going to track IPs.
Yep.
Anybody in the U.S. will be paying an extra 25%.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So for you, the podcast will be an hour and a half.
So, right, we're going to 0.5 exit.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. All of our Canadian listeners get off with 45 minutes of class this week.
Yeah. Everybody else, buckle up.
Yep.
My goodness.
When they get to that section, it's just a Canadian anthem on loop
Yes.
for the rest of the time.
Yes.
Anyways, crazy times right now. We continue to produce podcasts in these trying times.
Yes.
We continue to put out content.
Yes, we do.
And buy Canadian. We
Right.
continue to buy Canadian during
Yeah.
this time.
We do.
Yeah.
Reese's peanut butter cups every day for me. Yeah.
What about the American beer flying off the shelves? Is that bothering you?
I'm going to miss that. Actually, I don't think our province is in on that. We're not doing it.
Oh,
No, we're
Is,
selling
is Kraft Dinner Canadian?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
basically what I
KD.
eat now for supper.
Katie
every
and
night.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah,
That's
KD.
nice.
So that's what I'm going
nice.
for. Maple
yeah.
syrup and KD. I mean, we cannot mess that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
So we are actually recording this the day before the tariffs take place.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this does to the stock market?
So I was going to ask you that because you've been the one making
no,
all
no,
the
no.
predictions
I don't
on
wanna
here.
hog
No,
up
you
all
don't
the-
mind putting your name up
Nope.
there, so let's
Nope.
go ahead and ask you this one.
You're feeling a little on the...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So go ahead. The floor is yours.
I don't want to gobble up all the prophetic space.
Okay. Are you going to share the mantle?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get into that over there. Swoop it
Yeah.
over my shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to leave some real estate for up and coming profits. So,
So are we...
and
gonna-
that can be interpreted either way.
Okay.
Profits. Yeah.
I don't know what this is going to do to the stock market. I really don't know. I
By
did
the time
see.
this episode drops, it could be.
I did see our good friend Doug Ford has already canceled his Starlink contract.
He did.
So that's a slight $100 million off the table in Ontario.
So he was obviously buying a few of them.
Yeah, that's quite a few Starlink units,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Because I was going to say I could cancel mine, but it's not going to make $100 million worth of difference.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know if...
They know what it's going to do.
We know that Trudeau doesn't know.
Nah, he
That
doesn't.
is what we know.
We know that.
We know. Cut us some slack. We don't have a leader.
Like, what did we do? What did we do to deserve this? We're
Yeah.
still here. We're still cool. Like,
Yeah.
We had a
Come
friendship. We were friends.
Yeah.
Now what? Now what do we make of this relationship?
what are we supposed to do with this? That's
Like-
the question. What are we supposed to do with
Turn
this?
the other cheek or...
I don't know. I don't
Like,
know.
Will they even still listen to our podcast?
I don't know. Are you guys listening?
We may turn the lights out in New York. We may just turn them out,
Hey.
you know? So if you're listening in New York,
and it goes black.
don't push us.
Yeah.
Don't push us. But yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, what a great opportunity to turn it over to the producer to grab. We have him dredging the comments. We've assigned him to Go through the library
Yes.
from time to time and just pull out some gems.
So once I figured out your very scientific way of filtering,
Yeah, it took a few months of training.
so I finally feel like I've managed to get
Okay,
this
well
process.
let's
So
see what you pull up, and we'll let you know how you do.
I'm just going to share the very first thing that I read.
Okay, well, we're scientific. Yes, here we
Okay.
go.
Actually, it was a pretty cool comment. It says, "Girls' Day with all of your wives?" ? Have them come on and talk about you guys.
Hey.
Get the other brothers' wives interested by showing them how fun it could be. I would love this. So hey,
That's
could
a
be chaotic.
fairly good idea.
if that's the case, like
I would listen to that episode. Man, yeah, that would be interesting.
So I had a conversation last week in California with some of our loyal listeners.
Yeah, California.
And actually, I met, they were in California, but I'm thinking maybe if my memory's serving me right, they were from Nevada. And they said that this brother stopped me at the hotel and he said, "Hey, my mother-in-law, I think, listens to you. And she said that she just wishes those young guys would just stop talking so much and let the older guy talk." So
Wow.
apparently she's not a fan of the banter.
So she
Wow.
said older guy, right? That's what I caught from that. Who's the older guy?
Who's the younger guys?
Wow.
That's a good question.
Guys, plural.
Yeah.
Older guy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like
So I just wanted to share that, throw that out
Sure.
there.
All right.
Interesting you would say that.
Yeah.
That's what you remember from all the conversations you have with the listeners. Interesting that would be the highlight.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would that stick out?
So on that note, why don't I tell the audience what we're talking about today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think it's cool. This discussion we're going to have today is about conflict resolution, and we've been doing these. How would you describe them? They're classes, professional development, discipleship courses we've been doing in our local church, and this has been one of the topics that we talked about. I think it's a good topic that we probably should talk more about. We're really good at creating conflict.
Yeah. That can happen organically.
It does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was asked by Dr. Dean Anderson to participate in a conversation a few weeks ago. And he said, "I want you to address what you see as one of the greatest needs right now in the apostolic movement." Well, I mean, there's all kinds of fine print to answering that question. But I actually chose conflict resolution as what we talked about, because I really do feel like we've lost the art within fellowship circles to communicate effectively with each other and get over stuff. It's just become way too easy to just develop a behavior of, if we have conflict, cut each other off, let's roll on. I can find 5 new friends and they'll come to my meeting and they'll go on vacation with me and until I am in conflict with them, and then I'll cut them off. And it just becomes a very unhealthy
Why is that?
life pattern.
Why is it?
I think it's because we're intimidated to just
Yeah.
have honest, difficult conversations.
Yeah. And to be fair, how often do you hear people talking about the topic?
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah. Communication is tricky.
yeah, I agree.
I'd hate to pull this out right here, but 85% of people
I love this.
experience a level of discomfort. Just what you're saying, 85% of people experience
85.
enough
Where'd you get the number?
discomfort. No,
Where'd you
just
come up-
listen.
Who said that? Continue.
Sorry, guys. I just have
Yeah.
to share this.
Okay.
Yeah.
85, let me say it,
Let 'em
85%
chat,
of
RPT.
people experience a certain level of discomfort with conflict that they avoid it rather than entering into a resolution.
Yeah.
There, see?
Yeah.
See?
I don't think this is new with our generation.
No.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I think the easiest, I say the easiest, that's open for debate, but let me just stick with that. The easiest thing to do is just stick your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist, or replace what you've lost due to that conflict with fattening out your relationships in some other area to compensate. Like when I heard, this is an original with me, I heard this statement made, you can't make new old friends.
Right.
It takes time to get an old friend. So I'm not willing to let an old friend go without doing whatever I can to keep that old friend. If you see somebody that has, if I invite you over and all of my friends are there and none of them have been friends with me for more than a year, that's a problem. That's an indicator to you that I don't know how to manage conflict very well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That it's a symptom. The constant shuffle or the constant churn would definitely be a symptom that you view your friends as disposable rather than valuable enough to salvage the relationship and say, okay, we had a disagreement, but that's not going to define our relationship.
Yeah.
You know, one of the valuable things I've been taught from one of my mentors was in this space of conflict resolution is that you need to be able to sit down with someone and, you know, if this, I mean, this is just random, but we have a Gone Fishing coffee mug here. So we could talk about, I was ready for this discussion today. We could talk about the greatest episode of all time on Kingdom Speak.
Yes. Gone Fishing.
And I mean, it's undisputed, right? I mean, you could search it up and ask.
It's
the
undisputed.
Yeah, that's right. But if it were a dispute, we're not definitely talking. Just try to stay focused here for a second. We're not talking about your personal values, or we're not talking about the podcast. We're just talking about an episode. And you need to be able to isolate this Gone Fishing episode. And we need to have a healthy discussion. And I presume you disagree that Gone Fishing would be the greatest
I would
episode.
disagree. Yeah.
So there we have a disagreement. Right? But you need to be able to isolate this and talk about it. But then we say, okay, you know, that was a good discussion. But that's that. And we continue on. It's a very valuable thing.
Yes.
Because conflict resolution is not about avoiding conflict. It's going to happen. But it's what you do after the conflict has happened. That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. The issue is never the issue. It's
Right.
It's the behavior after the issue.
So then you meet this guy in the airport that you just roasted.
Yeah.
How are you going to sit down and have coffee with them?
Yeah.
Or I guess in your context, you're always in churches, right? So so the non-church audience or the non-church leadership audience listening to this, you got to put yourself in that space, which makes it even more complicated.
Right.
Church leaders having conflict. Well, then the next time you see the guy, you're probably on another platform somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's got to be like awkward sauce.
And can you salvage any value out of a relationship with an individual that you don't 100% agree with?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't agree. Obviously, we're not talking fundamentals here, but I don't agree with 12% of your views on X, Y, Z. Okay, so do I just disregard the other 88% value added to my life and try to work through it, or do I just go, nah? It's easier for me to find, and I'm afraid at that point we create echo chambers.
Of course, yeah.
That's because you're going to have to just find people that always agree with you.
Right.
That's what you will end
Yes,
up with.
men. Yes, people.
That's what you will end up with.
We all saw this on a national level during the transition with Biden and Trump, and the mainstream media was just chirping nonstop about the fact that Trump was going to see Biden at the White House, and what is this conversation going to be like? I don't know if they were expecting black eyes and bloody noses. I don't, because they had just spent the last 2 years in blatant terms, just blasting each other.
That's right.
But yet
conflict, you may say.
Yes, you could say that. I don't think that would be evangelizing
it was pretty. Yeah.
I think it's pretty well conflict. But yet they sat down and had a professional conversation, and everybody asked, how was it? And we had a great conversation. And they almost go like, well, you're being two-faced. There's no way that you could have this much conflict,
Absolutely.
but yet still be civil with each other. And so I think one of the elements, and we'll get into breaking this down a bit more, is you just need to talk. Like, it is so much easier to talk about someone that you should be talking to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And when you put that into the digital space we live in, it's I think you have so much more opportunity then, and you're exposed to so many more storylines.
Yes.
That you can talk about.
Yes. You're so right. Absolutely. So George Bernard Shaw said the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did talk to him, and it didn't work.
Oh, man. So true. So true. We're going to get into perception, but that really highlights perception
Yes.
and the role it plays. I don't know if you want to do that now or you want to do it
Yeah,
later.
no, we can kind of
let's talk
set it
about
up now.
perception right now, because
So,
I think that just puts it on the
to the person, perception is reality.
Yep. And in a conflict, it's just simply two perceptions that are different.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you punch somebody in the head. It just means that they said something and you're like, no, I don't think so. That's really what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're both seeing the world and seeing the issue through our own eyes. And you're speaking to me through your lens, and I'm hearing you through my lens.
Yep.
Like, my filter reflects my worldview. My filter reflects my angle on the conflict. So you're speaking from your position, and I'm hearing from mine. Like, it's a miracle that conflict ever gets resolved.
True.
Just because of that right there. So you literally have got to develop the ability to get outside of your perception and almost have a third party look at, all right, this is what they're saying.
Right.
I may not agree,
Right.
but I have to concede I see what you're saying.
That's right.
I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, but I see it.
Yeah, and that requires a level of self-awareness that, not everything I say everyone likes, or not everything that someone else says I like, or I just think that if you've read Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, it's that piece of self-awareness.
Yes.
Self-awareness.
Yes.
That, you need to know, how can I say this a better way? You need to know what your knee-jerk reaction is to things. Some people are really quiet, right?
Yep.
I tend to be analytical, so I'm generally on the quiet side. And then I'll go away and think about it. And then, so the flaw of that is people think, well, he's not talking to me because he don't like me.
Right, which comes back to perception.
That's a perception.
And that's not the reality.
Right. Whereas the guy who maybe his reaction is to immediately talk or communicate about something before he has processed it, then you can think.
Because talking to him is how he processes it.
Exactly.
Whereas you're going to reflect.
That's right. It's just two different types of personalities. That's all it is. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's
Stephen Covey
yep,
says, we see the world not as it is,
yep,
but as we are.
yep,
So that's what you're dealing with at that moment.
yep.
So if you take someone that is by nature quiet, reflective, I'll process it and I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that person that no, I want it now.
We want to, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, the approach to resolving the conflict has conflict.
That's right.
You begin
That's
to
right.
it
That's right.
reinforces the perception that he doesn't even think this is worthy of being talked about. He's just sitting over there. He's not saying nothing.
All you said is you'll think about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's, I mean, we're going to get into some Bible, but there's one scripture here that when we talked about this with our capacity class, I read, and it just had happened that I had read this in our Bible plan at the time, but in the NLT, Philippians 4, so the letter to Philippi, the writer said, I appeal to you, these two women, I can't pronounce it. Yodia and Siri, maybe, I don't know. Please, because you belong to the Lord, settle your disagreement.
Yes.
And I ask you, my true partner, to help these two women, for they worked hard with me in telling others the good news. They worked along with Clement and the rest of my coworkers, whose names are written in the book of life. So when I read this, and again, talking about perception, obviously, this can happen to anyone.
Yes.
Where you have two people
That are contributing to the church.
they're church work people,
Yes. They show up.
but something happened between them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I think we need to, even in the absence of it, you need to prepare for it to say, this is how we're going to resolve things.
Well, and
if it
Paul
happens.
is saying, fix it.
That's right.
Fix
Don't
it.
ignore it.
Don't ignore it. Fix it.
Yeah.
Because unresolved conflict to that church at that moment in Philippi affects the value added by both of these people.
Yeah.
The
that's right.
conflict will quite likely, unresolved at that moment, will cause one of them to say, well, do you know what? I'll just resign from the ladies' auxiliary. I'll
Because
pull
they think-
myself back from the Sunday school.
Because here we go, they think that'll resolve the conflict. Or
Right.
they think that's the preferred method of
Right.
resolving the conflict.
Especially if one of them, back to what we were saying a moment ago,
Yeah.
tends to be a bit more quiet. Look, they're just being quiet. They're not communicating with me. So I think they just want me out. And so when you start ascribing intent to people's actions, that's a scary hole to go down. This is something that I've tried to exhibit in leadership. If you're wondering what I'm saying, ask me. Because I'm not going to try to send you a coded message. My intent is to communicate exactly what I mean to you. And I don't want you hearing me from, I wonder what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Because then you're already back into this space of is it an extra level of conflict then? Because I wanted to talk to you to fix this, and now I find out that you're giving me all this other layer of pain on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So can we just address this one thing here briefly?
No.
But I want to.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you about it.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay. But you don't need to think about it. Just go with me.
I will.
Okay.
I'll think about it while you're saying it to me.
Yeah, so while you're talking, I'm going to formulate my reply. I'm formulating my reply as you're talking. I'm not going to listen to what you're saying.
Oh,
So you already know what you're going to say.
I'm already forming what I'm going to say. Right?
And there's another one. Another don't.
I'll never forget in the early years of my ministry sitting in on a counseling session. And the bishop was trying to help someone resolve conflict in marriage. Okay? And he had been extremely long suffering in hearing this particular party out. And finally, whenever he started, okay, this is what I think. I mean, do this, do that, try this, change this approach, etc. He could tell when he was talking that they weren't listening to him. They were trying to come up with all the reasons why what he was saying wouldn't work. And I'm sitting there going, oh, because I know my dad. This ain't going to go well. This ain't going to go well. Finally, he's like, hey, quit trying to come up with responses to what I'm saying. Listen to me. I'm not the one that has the marriage problem. You're the one that has the marriage problem. And you're not hearing me for solutions. You're hearing me from the filter of I want to come up with the reason why what you're saying won't work. I've already tried that and blah.
Right. I want to get you on my side.
Oh.
Right. Do you want to win an argument or do you want to resolve the conflict?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
We're talking about conflict resolution.
So you have to be able to concede points.
Bam.
Right.
Oh,
No relationship lasts without compromise. None.
Nope. And if
No
there is no
relationship.
compromise and you're in that long-term relationship, one of those two people is
Suppressing.
they are not telling you what they think.
Yes. You're right. Okay, so what I was going to say before you started getting all hyper over there is that before we can even get into...
I don't like your tone.
Yeah, I don't like what you said there either.
Do you know what really adds to these moments? Is when you're trying to help people resolve conflict. This is dangerous, see? Because I've got stories. Is when someone says, I'm like, look, you need to apologize to that person. So I get them in the room.
Yeah.
And like, no, but seriously, you need to. And they apologize. And the person receiving the apology is like, I don't know if that's sincere.
It doesn't feel...
It doesn't feel like they're genuine. I don't think they really mean what they're saying. Okay, so now what?
Yeah, you may be.
In my spirit, I just feel like,
Yeah, this is a super spiritual. Yeah.
that does not help with conflict resolution.
We could do, who's the guy the guys that do the stereotype videos? Zach is always showing me these. They make content. I can't think of this right now. The trick shot people.
Dude Perfect.
Yeah, Dude Perfect. So if you've never seen a Dude Perfect stereotype video, they do like an airline travel one.
Okay.
And it's all of these vignettes of, okay, these are the type of people you're going to see on an airline. And it's, the service animal person, the loud person on a phone, the obnoxious person, the frequent
How about this one
bathroom.
happened to me last week? The person sitting there with Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah.
And they're late 60s, early 70s, and they are blaring their movie that they're watching, but it's not in their ears. It's coming out their phone. And they have their earphones in.
Yeah.
That person.
They don't deserve
Like clear
the technology they're using.
clear across the terminal, everybody's just staring at them. So they do all these stereotypes.
But yeah, so I'm saying we could do like a resolving conflict.
We could.
Stereotypes.
We could.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, I digressed a second time. Back to your point.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like we're getting somewhere here.
Yeah, we're moving towards a solution.
I like
So
this.
we're aware that conflict exists and that it happens.
Yep.
So now I think we need to flip the coin and go, the first step to resolving it is to make sure that it truly is conflict. Because you cannot resolve something that is only one-sided. If only one person feels like there's conflict and the other person doesn't, what is there to resolve?
Yeah.
We're dealing at that point with a perception problem.
Yeah, back to your perception thing. That's right.
You need somebody that you trust, that you can talk to, that can go, okay, so Joe talked to Fred and Fred said, no, everything's cool. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm moving on. And so now the conflict is all internalized in Joe's, or as Bishop said, Billy. Maybe it's Billy. It's in his mind. It's in his perception. He's got this issue with this other guy that's going, I don't have an issue. I'm fine. How do you resolve that? That now becomes something that's an internal issue with Billy, that he has to have someone help him move from his perception, which he thinks is reality, to what really is reality. And in that moment, the easiest person in the world to fool is yourself, right? You've got to be willing to embrace, and that's why it's got to be someone you trust. When they go, no, Derek, that Randy does not feel that way. So you and Randy sitting down and talking about this gets us nowhere, because Randy's not, his head's not even there.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So Randy talked to me, Derek, and he, because I'm going to be the guy that you trust right now.
Okay, I guess I agreed to that.
Yeah. So at that point, I'm going, no, Randy talked to me. He doesn't have a clue what you're talking about. He feels sorry that you feel that way. Well, then you're sitting over here now with an entire structure that you've built. You've built an entire worldview as you view this relationship or this particular issue. And you're going, well, yeah, but he's going quiet. He won't. No, but that's just how Randy is. So you have to then go through the process of helping that person. I do have to go through the process of helping you deconstruct a misinformed perception so that you stop reading into everything that he does or doesn't do. My dad uses this when he's talked over the years about this. He went through a church split years ago, and he was struggling, as you can imagine, during a church split. Does everybody feel the same way? You know? And pretty soon, anytime he saw anybody talking, he was ascribing to their conversation that he was not privy to. He was ascribing the subject matter, and he had an elder tell him, Brother McKillop, you cannot allow yourself to ascribe that to them, because you're not in the conversation and you don't know that that's what they're talking about.
That's right.
That's right. Right? So there has to be conflict for it to be resolved. And if the conflict is only one-sided, then the conflict is no longer between two people. It is an internal conflict. You still need help with it, but the person that you think you're in conflict can't help you. The person you think you're in conflict with can't help you resolve it. So you need to go to a third party that you trust and say, help me with this. I talked to this guy. He says that everything's okay. I'm still struggling with that. With from my perspective, in reality, it's not resolved. Can you help me get over this?
Ironically, that's the biblical model.
Well,
all right.
You're going to bring the Bible
Here comes the Bible.
Okay.
Well, I'm generally the guy known for bringing the spiritual pieces to this podcast.
Yes. All right, sir.
All right.
All right, sir.
Bringing the heavy-hitting stuff.
Yes.
Get your Bible bums ready.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, is it not?
It is.
Go to a brother.
It is.
Try it. If not,
if not, go to somebody else.
Because the goal is to resolve the conflict.
Right. Right. The goal is not to be able to walk away with a badge or an award that you won.
I think, isn't the goal to get like at least 8 or 10 friends on my side, then we all go gang up?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
That's a neat idea.
What do you guys think about that? Like if I can convince everybody about that person, right, and get them all thinking like I'm thinking, then it's like 10v1.
And you're basically assembling a jury.
Right. Judge and jury. And then I feel
you walk
fine,
in and
right?
present everything to them.
Yeah.
The case you are the judge.
Right.
And you have your own jury set up already. Yeah, it's a strategy. It's one way.
It is a strategy.
Not sure.
It's one way.
Sometimes I've seen that theory in practice. You know, it just could be.
Do you want to do a little more on perception? Do you want to point out any more, or you want to keep going?
I think we need to jump to a biblical example of what we're talking about with conflict resolution and why conversation matters. Okay? I just wanted to throw that piece in there about, make sure it exists. If it doesn't exist,
fair enough,
and it's an internal issue, then you need people in your life that help you adjust you. That does not require the involvement of the person you think you have the conflict with.
That's right. It's not a two-sided thing.
No,
it's a
because
one-sided
it doesn't
thing.
exist.
It's a one-sided thing.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're listening to me right now and trying to formulate responses, yeah, but. Okay, so you don't think that person is being honest. They do have an ought with me, but they're saying they don't. Well, then you still need a third party, because there's got to be somebody that can help you with this process, and it requires this thing called conversation. You have to talk about it. Mental telepathy doesn't work.
No.
You need to be extremely careful, although there are times that I have suggested that it be in written format. You do need to be extremely careful about what you write or type. It doesn't need to be public. Stay off Facebook.
Yeah.
Just fix it.
That's right.
Okay? But we need to communicate. And this is where I'd like to go and give an example of this. So there's a story that's recorded in 1 Samuel 25 of
I'll pull it up here.
Nabal, David, and Abigail. Okay? And this is truly a conflict. This is not a one-sided deal. This is not just something that is in David's mind. Nabal proves out to be, in the end, a fool. Okay? Nobody could talk to him. David had protected Nabal and his sheep during a season of shearing, and there was military and political unrest, and David felt like it was only in order that Nabal repay his servants with some bread. I mean, he wasn't asking for a lot, just a little nourishment. Could you help us out? We protected you. Could you just give us a little something to drink, some bread to eat, because my servants have been out here defending you. Nabal's response is, who is David? You know, so he sees David's servants coming. They represent David's side, his request. He responds with, who is David, man? There's servants breaking away from their masters left, right, and center. I don't know who it is. And so David's men return, and they give him the response that Nabal will not help us. It's not going to happen. And David goes, oh, conflict resolution. I'm a master at this. Strap on your swords, boys. Let's go at it.
Yep.
Okay?
Let's eliminate the conflict.
Let's jump immediately over talking, and let's just go to killing.
Yeah. There cannot be a conflict if there is no opponent.
Okay? David's hot under the collar, and David's more than well able
he
to
can
deliver.
take care of business.
He knew how to wield a sword. So, but notice this. He completely jumps over conversing to try to resolve it, to eliminating the other side, destroying the other side.
Yeah.
So I've got conflict with you. I'm not going to sit down and talk to you. Rather, I am going to try to destroy you.
Yeah. And in today's modern context, generally it's not somebody grabbing a sword, but it's the character assassination.
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me he
I'm
would
going
do
to
that
render
because
you.
I was on the golf course with him once and he wouldn't give me that 4-foot putt. Doesn't surprise me a bit.
Well, see.
Sorry, that just
this wasn't supposed to
sorry.
come. I didn't know this was going to get personal.
It was like a Freudian slip.
What hole was it again?
There's more than one, actually, if you want to get into it. But that's what we do, right? We assassinate the character.
Yes. Because if we're not careful, it's easier to do that, although much riskier because you run the risk of dying yourself in the process.
Man, you're right. You're right.
But still, we tend to lean towards that versus let's have a conversation about this. So David's strapping on his sword. Nabal's servants realize there is zero hope in turning this thing around with Nabal. He's a write-off. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to Abigail. We can talk to Nabal's wife. They go to Abigail, and they recount to her, this is what happened. David's servants just showed up. All they asked for was, Nabal said, they accurately reflect the conflict. And Abigail goes, oh no. We need to have a difficult conversation. Okay? And I want you to notice in verse 15, and Derek, you can read that. 1 Samuel 25 and 15. Notice what the servants say to Abigail about David's servants. Okay?
But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, as long as we were conversant with them.
Oh.
When we were in the fields.
They didn't hurt us. We didn't lack anything. As long as we were conversant. As long as we kept talking.
So good.
We didn't lack anything. We didn't hurt each other. But the moment we quit talking, look how quick it degrades into, I can kill him without even missing a beat. I have no issue in killing him. Coming full circle back to this reality, it is easier to talk about people that you should be talking to. And if we take this to a high level of ministry, God forbid, but it's easier to preach about issues, about people, that we won't sit down across the table and say, bro, why are you doing that?
Right.
Talk to them. As long as they were conversant, the swords stayed away.
Wow.
The moment they quit talking is the moment that they grab the sword and we immediately go to battle. We're going to resolve this thing one way or the other. And we've just chosen that we think battle's the best way to take care of it. And Abigail was a wise woman. And she says, I am going to go to David and I'm going to intercept a man that just strapped on a sword to resolve a conflict. And I'm going to intercept him with some bread, some wine, and some soft speech.
Not with another sword.
You do know that it's still a biblical reality that a soft answer will turn away wrath.
Wow.
That's a biblical reality. So
good, man. So good.
why don't you speak, Derek, to the overall conversation and the trickiness
Well,
of having these conversations, crucial conversations.
so yeah, I was just going to bring up one of the books that we read sort of in preparing for that class we did was Crucial Conversations, Joseph Grenny. And it's a phenomenal book. It's a very technical book, but it talks about how you resolve conflict. So the entire thing is pretty much a toolkit on, different methods you can use. And he has this crucial conversation pyramid. So, envision a pyramid, 3 corners. But what defines a crucial conversation? So we've had the disagreement. So we're not talking about that anymore. We've already had the bloodbath fight, and now we want to fix it. And how you need to have one of these crucial conversations is one of these 3 things. If there's an opposing opinion,
yes, if
if there's strong emotion involved, or if there are high stakes. So it's like, think of an estate sale, high stakes. Maybe there's a lot of money involved. It's a business deal that is on the rocks. Opposing opinions, well, that we've pretty much talked about that. Or strong emotion, that could be like a relationship issue, a betrayal of trust. That's where you need to know that you're in one of these crucial conversations, and you have to be prepared for that. So the first thing he talks about is this thing called lag time, and the importance of cutting the lag time. So what lag time is the time between
that's good.
The time between your disagreement and your attempt at resolving it.
Yes.
That shows the other party that, hey, I'm serious about fixing this.
Yep.
If I come to you and say, you said something to me 3 years ago and it's really bothering me, I'd like to talk to you about it.
Yep.
There's a lot of flags with that kind of an opening in a conversation.
Sure there
Or,
is.
it's kind of abstract, but I just don't like how you've been looking at me or talking to me. It's much more effective to say, yeah, we just disagreed over this thing. I don't want to continue on. Like, we should talk through that, figure out what we need to do to fix this. And I'd like to move on and not have that in front of us every time we talk to each other.
This is Peter denying Christ 3 times, hearing the cock crow, and immediately going out
Yes, that's exactly right.
and weeping bitterly as he repented.
Sure.
Okay, the longer period of time, the longer the lag time, to use your terminology here, the longer the lag time, the more difficult
Yeah.
it is to convince the other party that you're sincere.
So
Yeah. So what the author says is gossip, mistrust, and resentment. All that stuff rarely happens in the conflict. It happens in the lag time.
Oh, that's good.
That's when it all happens. So yeah, we have the disagreement.
Gossip, mistrust, and resentment
Yep.
occurs in the lag
The
time.
longer you let that fester,
Yep.
that's the long-term damage to a relationship.
well, it's true because all the factors you just mentioned, they take time.
Exactly.
Like resentment,
Exactly.
it takes time to build that up.
Yes.
You don't just automatically resent somebody.
No,
Like
no.
Right.
No, that's
it,
right.
it grows with time.
You don't go from incident to resentment.
Right. You fester
Right.
and you think and you talk and
Right.
yeah. That's good.
So good.
So the other thing he talks about is lag time, and then we can move on. But it's, you got to ask yourself, well, why don't people want to talk about this stuff? And I think we've already talked some about people just want to avoid conflict.
Sure.
So they think by avoiding conflict,
It'll
it'll
go
resolve
away.
conflict. And that's not the case. Avoiding conflict is not resolving conflict.
Right.
And then the second thing is maybe you feel like you handle it poorly, or you're not confident that you can fix it, which makes the case for a mediator or somebody that can help you out if you're not in that case.
Yes.
So I think it's a great book that you should really read if you're into that stuff. He talks about the fool's choice. I could throw this in here, but the fool's choice is, do you tell the truth to someone or do you keep a friend? And that's a trap.
Right. So
That's a trap.
Tell us the story of your grandma's.
So
What
how
was
do
it?
we do this?
So I can illustrate this to you by my grandma making raisin pie. And it's as bad as it sounds. Raisin pie, like, think about it for a second. It dried up grapes. No. Anyway, imagine my grandma making me a raisin pie and cutting me a piece and saying, hey, I made you a raisin pie. How do you like it? Or I left it on your doorstep. What did you think of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I either have to say, listen, your raisin pie is horrific, and it went into the garbage can, or I can say, oh no, it was good. It was good. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Like,
Yeah, but
And
that's
now you're
lying.
being
But that's lying.
dishonest
You're
with
being
yourself.
dishonest.
that's the fool's choice.
Have you heard Simon Sinek talk about, which this jumps a little bit outside of the idea of conflict resolution and more conflict prevention. Okay? But he says he was invited to go see a performance by one of his dear friends who was just stepping into theater, and he watches them do their performance, and he said it was the worst thing he'd ever seen. It was horrible.
Oh no.
It was like,
I've not heard this.
it was terrible. You've not heard him?
No.
Oh yeah. And he said he's sitting there knowing what's going to happen.
He's going to be asked.
He's
what
going
he
to be
thinks.
asked at the conclusion of the event, what did you think of the performance, Anne? So he said, just like he anticipated, that is exactly what happened. She came to him afterwards and said, Simon, what did you think of it? And so he said, I looked at her and said, you'll never know how good it made me feel to see you up on that stage and enjoying this new pursuit that you have, knowing that you were fulfilled. And for me to be able to witness that was just a special moment. Okay.
Very well done.
Takes skill to do that.
Yes.
Very well crafted.
Yes.
Yeah, very well crafted.
Okay. Then, and this was his point, then the next day in a follow-up phone conversation, he was more honest with her. So what he said is that there are times you have to be able to read the room and know that emotions are going to cloud the ability to properly perceive what I'm trying to say. So even in moments like that, the raisin pie, well, you may have to dance around it, but that doesn't mean forever you sit on the reality that you don't like raisin pie. But yet, if she's got you in a line of all the other grandchildren, and everybody's oohing and on about their raisin pie and Graham's raisin pie, then you have to read the room and go, you know, Graham, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to make a pie for me, yada, yada. Down the road, you may go, you know, I really do like your apple pie.
Yeah.
A lot better
If I had to
than your
pick one,
raisin
I'd probably
pie.
pick the apple one.
Right?
Yeah.
You have been both loyal to
Right.
who you are,
Right.
but respectful of who they are.
Of course. And naturally, that's actually how you feel. Like, you honestly, you don't want to be negative to, you know what I mean, to your grandma. Let's use
Right.
that, you know what I mean? It just takes a bit of skill to work through how you're going to answer
So
in these
think
cases.
through it. You know it's going to happen.
Right. But you do care that she makes you a pie.
Yes.
Yeah, you
know what I mean?
should.
You do.
You should,
Yeah, but
yes.
you do
Yes.
appreciate
Yes.
that, right? So it's
Yes.
it's that conundrum of that's actually how you feel.
Right.
It just takes a bit of process to work through that.
And I
Right.
think all of that illustrates back to your point earlier about you don't always have to agree on everything. And it doesn't mean that you're just a politician and won't say what you think. But you don't always have to say everything you think about everything,
No.
right?
100%.
You can just pick something positive to say about it and move on.
You should be able to find good
Yeah.
in everything. Very few things are totally a write-off. So I don't care how bad the sermon was. There's something,
There's something.
right? Back again to my dad telling me there's no such a thing as a bad 22-minute sermon. Right? Son, you can say a lot and get out of there in 20 minutes and they're going to be happy with you. So if you find yourself in that situation, you just need to be prepared to articulate. Do not adopt the idea, well, bless God, I told them the truth. They asked me and they wanted to know and I just let them have it. No, there's this whole neat biblical concept that you can speak the truth in love.
That's right. That's right.
Isn't that a deal? I think we could have a bit more conversation about this. Maybe in another episode.
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree.
Do you want
vehemently.
to take a few minutes and think about it?
Yeah, you better let me think about it.
Okay. Let's have another crucial conversation.